Hare Krishna. Thanks a lot for joining. And let us start with our regular prayers. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Dnyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Namah Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shanyavadi Pashyata Desha Tarine. जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि श्री गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. Thanks a lot for joining today's session. I'll be sharing my PPT soon. Okay. Hope all of you can see the PPT. So till last section actually we discussed very important part, that how Krishna inspires Arjuna, and Arjuna voluntarily, after getting convinced from within, he agrees to go ahead and fight. So it was not, Krishna did not force him, Krishna did not threaten him, but Krishna actually enlightened Arjuna from all the angles, whatever questions he had, from Bhakti Yoga, from Karma Yoga, from Knowledge Yoga, everything. And then, after getting convinced from within, Arjuna decided to proceed. So, that is a key of Bhagavad Gita, that we need to be convinced about whatever activity we should be doing. Now, we'll be connecting this important part of summarizing last 6 chapters of Bhagavad Gita, that is the Jnana Yoga section, knowledge part of this. And then let's see, I have some thoughts in mind. Maybe I'll summarize the whole Bhagavad Gita in 2 sessions. And before that, we may have 1 or 2 question and answer sessions. So let's start with today's part, starting from 13th chapter. Now, this whole section, knowledge section, is all about we as an individual, what is our role, our choices, and our activities within this material world, and where it will lead to us. So this knowledge section, it enables us to take that proper decision based on clear discrimination. So first of all, let's try to understand what is our field of influence. Each of us, we have different roles. Some of us are working, some of us are business people, some of us are housewives, some of us are student phase or retirees, whatever it might be. But all of us will have certain phases in life, and based on that, our field of influence means with whom we can influence what kind of work to be done. It might be people, it might be resources. All of that will keep on changing. And based on our area of influence, what should be our prescribed duty at that point of time? It's very important to understand that. So in 13th chapter, all these concepts are clear. So kshetra word, it actually denotes the body with which we are going to do our work, and also the field of influence, that is called as kshetra. Now, the Kshetrajna is one who is influencing that field of activities. So it could be a soul, it could be a, basically, it's Kshetrajna means one who is influencing that field. It's the spirit soul which is residing within the body. And Krishna actually gives a summary of this all knowledge, that the field of activities, constitution changes, the change of our field of influence, how it is produced, whenever it change the role, and the influences of this knower, the field of activity. So all this is summarized in this particular section. So the knowledge, Krishna mentions that the basically all of us need to understand 5 great elements, that is earth, water, fire, air, ether. Then there are, after this gross element, there are subtle elements of ego, mind, intelligence. Then the 10 senses, that is panch karmendriya, panch jnanendriya. So 5 knowledge acquiring senses, 5 active senses. And then of course, from all this combination, various type of sense desires, the hatred, desire, happiness, distress, life symptoms aggregate, and various convictions. And that this particular convictions, the types of faith, it comes in the almost 17 and 18 chapter. So this whole knowledge yoga summary, whatever we are going to discuss, this is all is a crusk of the real knowledge. So whenever we are trying to discuss the knowledge, why we are, how the things are operating, why we are into this particular place, and what all things we can influence in our as a part of our interaction. Everything comes as a as a part of our field of activities and its interactions. I had added this particular diagram to particularly emphasize the field of concern and field of influence. So field of concern might be, we might be wishing that, oh, this thing can happen that way, or I wish certain things would have turned out this way, or somebody else would have thought that way. These are all might be field of concerns. Field of concern is not something which we can influence, but each of us have a field of influence which we can control. And if we have this proper knowledge, we can take proper decision, and the course of activities of our life and also the life of others, maybe parents, the spouse, kids, it can be changed based on the solid knowledge which we gather through this Bhagavad Gita. So each of us have this field of influence, and of course they overlap with somebody else's field of influence. So my spouse, for example, she has her own field of influence and some of the part which might be common as well. Now some souls might be in different bodies, and again, being in that body, they have different field of influence. So field of influence need to be very much clear what we can control at this point of time, and this field of influence keeps on changing as we go through our life. Now, it's very important to understand when we are going through this, going to interact this field of influence. Um, this field of influence keeps on changing with time, not only in this body, but across the journey of various bodies. So the nature, what we see around, it actually just, I mean, it just, let's say that if it is raining, if it is raining means it could be just material things interacting with each other, like cloud is gathering water in the form of cloud, and then it is now pouring. So nature is actually causing all kind of effects, but the living entity, depending on my own consciousness, I might be happy, I might be miserable, I want to go somewhere, I cannot go, but I'm happy to enjoy the rain, or if it is too chilly, or I'm enjoying the fragrance. Depending on my own consciousness, my own desire, I might enjoy or suffer the cause and effects the which nature is causing. Now it's very important to understand what causes us to suffer or enjoy in this particular world. So this is actually connected to the three modes of material nature. We are being in this body, we are connected to this nature through these three modes, that is goodness, passion, and ignorance. So, depending on how much goodness we are acquiring in our life, our quality of sufferings and quality of enjoyments, it keeps on varying a lot. So, people in the mode of goodness, they are in much more clarity, they have much more clarity about what is happening. They can overcome challenges, they can accept the sufferings with gratitude. The consciousness itself is different in the mode of goodness. With passion, it's more of a fighting it out and trying to acquire as much or grabbing as much sense gratification as I want. And the third one, the mode of ignorance, is just a wasting of resources and time in this life. So, based on our modes of consciousness, we enjoy or suffer in this particular world. Now, the thing is, while being in this body, the spirit soul experiences all these sufferings and enjoyment. At the same time, there is another soul, the super soul, who is residing in the same body. He is patiently watching. He is, as long as soul is just trying to exploit the resources of this material nature, the super soul is just observing, and he is permitting whether whatever soul wants to do, whether he can execute that with nature or not. So he is overseeing and just permitting as a just a neutral party. But as soon as soul develops a desire, devotional desires to do some services or getting rid of this material world, purify himself, then for that right activities, super soul helps the soul. Even sometimes something which is not even as part of the karma of that soul, super soul exceeds and it helps. So we had seen this same situation in this war of Mahabharata also, where Krishna actually broke his promises for higher purpose to help his devotee Arjuna when he picked up the chariot wheel to fight with Bhishma. So as we discussed this sufferings and enjoyment, the important concept which we need to all of us need to understand is the process of transmigration. Transmigration means transmigrating from one body to another body. So every body, like for example tiger, what we see is the gross body, but again tiger has specific nature, is very aggressive. He is not bothered about what other living entity is going through. He just wants to satisfy by eating raw flesh. So this is something uh, subtle nature for that body, and of course the gross body which we view, which we experience. Now we as a soul, every soul, when we are in this body, each soul has certain set of subtle body, that is ego, the mind and intelligence, and of course the previous karma impressions, whatever we have got. So depending on, we choose what kind of mode of nature, the goodness, passion or ignorance, whom I want to be predominant in my life. Based on that, we develop our psychophysical nature. And this psychophysical nature is constituting of a lot of things. It's our attractions, the kind of food habits, the charity, the sacrifices we do. So this the types of understanding we develop. So this whole thing constitute our psychophysical nature. And that psychophysical nature, if it is pure, then soul is eligible to go out of this particular material world back to the spiritual world. But if that is not the case, if we are still having attractions for any of the living entity or propensities of this living entity in this material world, then while quitting this particular body, when this body becomes useless for whatever reason, might be through some accident, through some disease, through some old age, if this body is no more habitable and soul has to give up this body, then the next body is chosen based on the psychophysical nature this soul has acquired. So this species matching algorithm we discussed as a part of this 13th chapter, and based on what kind of nature I have acquired, that kind of species I'll be transmigrating into. um, then we also discussed in more depth understanding these three modes of material nature, because these three modes of material nature, they influence our psychophysical nature, that decides our destiny. So to understand these three modes of material nature, it's very crucial for all of us. So sattva, the mode of goodness, is very illuminating. It frees one from the sin. It's very happiness, knowledge. But this sattva, it demands something in our life. We need to control our senses. We need to be, this is a lot on mental level. If you see, we need to develop certain knowledge. We need to restrict some of our desires. So this sattva, initially it appears little like a poisonous in the sense we have to put a lot of effort and a lot of resist a lot of temptations. But once it becomes part of our psychophysical nature, it's not a struggle for somebody to just resist. Oh, okay, I don't mean, somebody might just hate eating, for example, non-veg, or I don't want to drink some liquor or whatever. So it's not a struggle for somebody who has already acquired sattva nature. But then when it comes to rajas or mode of passion, which is uncontrollable desires, and I just want have a lot of attachment and a lot of endeavor, and I want to just keep on enjoying in this world. So for such kind of passionate nature, it's very difficult to see things clearly as they are. So for example, in kshatriya or some administration, they have to think of increasing the prosperity of whatever region they are governing. They have to think, how can I acquire more things in life? So rajas, mode of passion, might be required for the kshatriya. But if kshatriya is in touch with the people who are in the mode of goodness, the sadhus or saints, they can give him proper directions, and then things can be developed in a very proper manner. So this sattva leads to proper goodness. Rajas is mode of passion. It's about unlimited hankering and expansion in this world. And the tamas is all destroying. So this tamas is destroying time, destroying resources, no knowledge of what is happening, and no desire also to acquire or enjoy in this particular world. So this tamas is very inertia kind of nature. It drags down the consciousness. So tamas is also to certain extent, for example, when we go to sleep, and if somebody is very active, it's very difficult for him to take proper rest for body. So tamas or mode of ignorance is also required, but in very specific part of time in life. So understanding which mode is required at what point of time, and able to exert that mode will help us to cross over these three modes of material nature. Now, to understand more about this nature, the action and reaction is also important. What kind of action one may perform in what kind of mode and what kind of reaction it is. So, pious action, that is a mode of goodness, is always pure and it is elevating. But the passionate action most of the time results in a miserable situation. Why? Because so much of expectation is there and so many limited resources, and it's not possible that all desires of this passionate nature will get fulfilled, so it does end up in miserable situation. And ignorance, it's just a foolishness because we are wasting the valuable time which we are acquiring in this particular human body. So from mode of goodness, real knowledge develops. Whatever time and resources and intelligence I have acquired, I'm utilizing them to understand the things and developing real knowledge. From mode of passion, greed develops. So greed and anger. So if I don't get something, it's angry. If I get, I just want more and more. It's a greed. And mode of ignorance develop foolishness, madness, illusion. It's more of a animal species, the mode of ignorance. So all of us, it's not that somebody is 100% in mode of pure goodness or somebody is 100% is in a passion. All of us have this element of passion, goodness, ignorance in different percentages. But our stress should be to maximize the goodness as much as possible and utilize the passion when it is required, and also employ ignorance when it is required. So our actions and thought process and decisions, more they are in goodness, the better are the results. Now, after understanding these modes of different nature, these modes of nature, they actually constitute the the very trunk of this imperishable banyan tree. And in 15th chapter, Krishna explains this inverted banyan tree. So what is it? It's actually in spiritual world, all of we have pure desires to serve the Lord. The fruits which we acquire in the spiritual world, they are more and more purification, more service, more happiness, more bliss. But this all activities of spiritual world, when they are reflected into the selfish desires of a soul, then whole thing becomes upside down. So this inverted banyan tree is actually inverted consciousness which we are spreading in this material world. So it is said that the trunk, it is made of three different modes of material nature. The branches and the roots, they are spreading everywhere. The leaves are like Vedic hymns. Why Vedic hymns? Because this is something which we can see that because of which we acquire different things, the fruits and leaves of this material nature. So twigs means things which interconnect the end results and this material modes of nature. They are like object of senses, and the final results, the fruitive results of these actions, they are like end fruits of this particular tree. But this sense gratification, religiosity, economic development, it is said that all this is acquired through this material existence. But with this, if you, I mean, this whole material existence is trying to be explained through this material existence of this inverted banyan tree. And this banyan tree is spreading everywhere. These roots, which are actually nothing but our own desires, they are just increasing our existence in this material world. And when some of the thing goes wrong in our existence, even though I might be doing something nice, but something immediately I might have to go through some very challenging situation. It's very difficult to understand why am I going through certain situation. As you can see, this material existence is spread so wide. If you try to analyze what exactly I did at what point of time in life, in previous life, because of which I am suffering right now, this analysis will not lead to any kind of purification. So when somebody tells us that we need to improve upon something, or Paramatma tells us that something need to be improved, or we realize something is going wrong, rather than analyzing, okay, why this is happening or who is behind this and trying to fix them, this is like again increasing our existence in this material world. What Krishna says is that rather than analysis and paralysis, pick up the weapon of detachment. Understand that I'm not going to continue my material existence here. So just get detached from any kind of materialistic desires of influence or acquiring some things in life or trying to enjoy certain type of sense objects. Just get detached from these desires, and with determination. It's very important that if you want to cut the branch, you cannot just very peacefully, I'm just running some sword over it. I need to be determined about this getting rid of certain bad habits, and then only it will work. So practice and detachment, with this it's possible that we can control our mind and we can stop our existence in this particular material world. Now, when we are talking about this, Krishna also explains about this roaming around across time, spaces, and spaces. This whole inverted banyan tree which is spreading in this particular world. Krishna says that it can be an individual banyan tree as well as the material existence of all different type of living entities as well. So Krishna says they are all eternal fragmental parts. So we are actually supposed to be very blissful and knowledgeable and eternal parts of the Lord, but due to conditioned life means we are getting accustomed to enjoying this world. We are struggling very hard with different senses and minds. And that's why, because of our own desire, we are keep on transmigrating from one life to another. Sometimes demigod, sometimes animal, sometimes human beings, sometimes aquatic or birds, animals. We just keep on changing our bodies. And Krishna gives very interesting example like the air carries aroma. So you don't see some different type of air is coming with different type of aroma. It's a very subtle. So based on our own instincts, our own psychophysical nature, we keep on changing bodies one after another. And whenever we take such a acquire the psychophysical nature and take certain type of gross body, then that whole psychophysical nature takes a shape, and we acquire certain type of ear, eye, tongue, nose. And what happens with all of that grouped up about the mind, that is grouped about psychophysical nature, we keep on enjoying certain set of sense object, and then again we keep on changing that body to something else, sometimes going up like demigod, sometimes degrading like animals, or sometimes going to heavenly planets, sometimes going to hellish planets. But this all roaming around across time and spaces is happening because of our own desires, not able to choose how to increase the element of goodness in our existence. Now, in 16th chapter, Krishna actually explains the very important part of divine and demoniac qualities, because divine qualities are very much cultivated with the mode of goodness, and then rest of the chapter, after this first three verses, rest of the chapter is dedicated for the demoniac mindset. It's very important that we understand and contemplate on the qualities which Krishna has mentioned in this particular 16th chapter. So this divine quality is fearlessness. Fearlessness come only when we know that whatever is happening in life, God has arranged, and Krishna knows what is he doing. Krishna knows, God knows what is he doing. That means this whole situation is for my personal purification. I'm going to develop very exquisite special quality which I need to develop in my material existence, and that quality will help me to get rid of this material existence altogether. That fearlessness will come when we are completely depending on the Lord. Like that, we need to focus on each and every quality which is mentioned here. The cultivation of spiritual knowledge, none of us want to have that desire to cultivate spiritual knowledge automatically. We have to force ourselves to open the Bhagavad Gita, to read it, to put it into habit, to put it into practice. So, to develop the qualities, these divine qualities, we have to put effort, we have to put our logic, we have to contemplate, without which it's not possible that we go up and up in consciousness. It's not a free floating that automatically will go up. To go up, we have to put effort. Like lift, for example, to go up, energy is required, not, and falling down with gravity, it's very easy. But to go up, we have to put effort. So this austerity, this simplicity of consciousness, truthfulness in even in challenging circumstances, tranquility even amongst different temptations, aversion to fault finding. It's very easy to find the faults. Immediately, as soon as somebody points out something is wrong, immediately we can point out how the other person's perception is wrong. But this trying to this trying to restrict ourselves, finding fault with us and not with others, The freedom from covetousness. Covetousness means aspiring something which is already belonging to somebody else. Gentleness, modesty, this vigor in Krishna consciousness, fortitude, cleanliness. Cleanliness means really fanatically cleanliness. It's not easy to develop these qualities. So we have to contemplate, we have to think of our lifestyle, and we have to plan it and create a habits with which we can develop it. And it ends with freedom from envy and passion for honor. So passion for honor means after developing, no expectation that anybody will recognize or they will start appreciating these qualities. This is for our own getting better version of ourselves. And apart from this divine qualities, then demoniac thoughts. This is very natural, and this is something which happens with each of us. Everybody thinks, or particularly demoniac people thinks, so much I have wealth today, and I have so many financial schemes and investments. I will increase it, and in due course of time, I will have so much of wealth, and I'll be one of the very richest and very successful person. And whoever is planning to obstruct one of these plans, he is my enemy. He has to be eradicated. And in due course of time, I'll become lord of everything. I'll enjoy, I become very perfect, powerful, and I'll be happiest person after gaining all this. And all I'll be surrounded with all these aristocratic relatives who are also trying to enjoy and extract the resources of this nature. Everybody, just nobody's thinking how can I serve the Lord, how can I develop the divine qualities. Everybody just automatically thinking how can I exploit more and more, and how can I become more and more influential. So at the end, then I'll perform this some of the sacrifices, I'll just throw away some charity, and I'm deserved to be barged into heaven. That's what one ends up being, that kind of consciousness. So this demoniac consciousness or divine consciousness, it all develops from the type of faith or the types of different appreciations we develop in our mind for what we are actually developing. Deep desire in our mind, that's a deep appreciation, that deep faith matters a lot. So people in the mode of goodness, they worship demigods. They worship demigods means they acknowledge that I have been given this, I have been gifted this by some other higher living entities, and they develop this gratitude towards them. The mode of passion is just all enjoying and exploiting as much as possible, and mode of ignorance is all about just worshipping ghosts and spirits and want to destroy themselves, want to destroy somebody else. So it's all just suicidal thoughts. So sattvic faith, rajasic faith, and tamasic faith. This faith factor is very important because that's what forms the basis of next activities, that the food, the charity, the penance, the lifestyle, the sacrifices, everything is based on this deep appreciation or faith which we imbibe in our life. So I'm going to emphasize only these two aspects from the faith perspective, the food and the charity. Because this food, the kind of food we take in, if we are taking something which is very juicy, fatty, which is health, which makes us more healthy, it may not be very, very tasty, but it will help us to develop proper strength, develop clarity of thoughts. Such food falls in the category of sattvic. Rajasic food, generally the taste is stretched to another extreme, which is like too sour, too salty, hot, and lot of chilies, and it's while eating also burning, while going out also it is burning. That kind of food is the Rajasic food. What is Tamasic food? It's all the typical modern lifestyle. Buy something from the freezer, put it into fridge, and then from freezer put it into oven, and such kind of food which is cooked or half cooked many days back, and I'm trying to just make it hot and just getting it palatable for my tongue and just gulp it down. So even such kind of even wines or some foul smelling things, and they put a lot of preservative and other things to avoid that foul smell things. And all this tamasic food, it doesn't lead to neither happiness in this world nor in next. It just drags on down consciousness also, and it destroys the duration of life as well. So we should always choose the food which purifies the mind, nourishes the body, and supports spiritual practices. Now, even the charity also, it's very important when we give the charity. It should be done out of duty without any expectation and looking at the time, place, and with to whom I am giving this. So the more the refined consciousness, the charity will have better effects on our own consciousness. So charity is not to gain some name and fame in this world. Charity is to refine our own consciousness so that we come to the conclusion that this doesn't belong to me, and Lord has given to me in care of me for some time, and it's better if somebody else also utilizes these resources. So with this consciousness, I'm not the controller or I'm not the doer. Charity helps us to imbibe this consciousness. But any kind of charity done in rajasic and tamasic consciousness, it leads to degradation and not some long-term benefits at all. So when we come to this particular chapter of 18th, the final chapter, the type of understandings, the when Krishna is particularly this discussion of types of faith and this types of modes, it still continues till verse 40. So the types of understanding, because it's very important that what is to be done, what not to be done, on what basis it need to be done, what is more priority, what is authentic, what is not authentic, what are the basis for taking certain decision. All that thought process can come only in the mode of goodness. But in passion, because our vision is so much clouded with I just want to enjoy it, and it's thoroughly blinded with what is to be what is religion, what is means what is to be done, what is not to be done, we cannot decide, because ultimately I just want to achieve my end goal and I just want to keep on manipulating something in between. So that whole understanding is in mode of passion. And understanding in mode of ignorance is all upside down. They just consider religion to be irreligion, eradicate this Sanatan teachings, or just kill all this. This is like a typical Hiranyakashipu mentality, where they want to eradicate all the sadhus and they just want to establish that let's have this, let's enjoy beef, let's enjoy this Kit Kat parties or whatever the irreligious beer parties and festivals and all that kind of thing. This comes in mode of, this understanding is in mode of pure ignorance. Now the type of happiness, because why? Because we are all looking for some kind of happiness in our life. So for goodness, as I mentioned, it takes some effort. It's not easy. It is going against current. It's to go up, we have to put some effort. So it may appear like a poison, but definitely it is. Once we acquire mastery over mind and habits, then definitely it is nectarian. The proper things, decisions automatically are taken on basis of the proper understanding. But some happiness which feels like I'm enjoying right now, the drinking beer or enjoying some flesh of animals, but in due course of time, this kind of happiness, it gives very terrible results and it's a poison at the end. So that happiness is in mode of passion. And of course the ignorance, which is just sleeping and keeping the status quo as it is and not achieving anything in life, it comes in the mode of ignorance. Now, in the latter part of chapter, Krishna explains this uh, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, this category which exists in every civilization, what kind of consciousness they constitute: Brahminical mindset, then the Rajasic administrative mindset, or business mindset, or worker mindset. He explains all this based on our own swabhava, depending on swabhava is a permutation combination, goodness, passion, ignorance, which we have acquired. Based on that, we may perform certain activity, and this activity is swadharma, that becomes our prescribed duty. But Krishna also emphasizes, now no matter what kind of three modes of material nature we have acquired, the more we are struggling to increase the mode of goodness in our activities, we will be able to perform the spiritual activities which are very much related to the mode of goodness, and it will help us to go back to the spiritual world. So even if somebody might be Shudra or doing the activities which are in the mode of ignorance, but if he can keep his mind in mode of goodness, put efforts in developing spiritual understanding, such a Shudra also can go back to God. So Krishna emphasizes these divisions of Daivi Varnashram Dharma. Why is it Daivi? Because this Varnashram, Varna and Ashram. Varna means Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. These are ashrams, and um, this varna and ashram. So ashram is actually brahmacharya, grihastha, vanaprastha, sannyas. These are ashrams, and varnas is brahmana, kshatriya, vaishya, shudra. So this varnashrama system, why it is daivi? Because through this system, if we are picking up spiritual life, we will be able to perfect our life. And this whole chapter culminates while having all this knowledge. The important bottom line part is our faith. The way we started this whole chapter, our dependence on the Lord, that fearlessness, first quality, first divine quality, it comes when we are dependent on the Lord in every situation in our life. So Krishna in verse 65 and 66 in 18 chapter, he highlights that we have to become his devotee. We have to offer our obeisances, think of Krishna, then he will give us proper guidance with which we will come back to him. And in 66 he specifically says, at any point of time we are bewildered, what to be done, what not to be done, just follow what Krishna is saying, completely surrender. And that surrender element is very important, that accepting whatever is favorable for devotional service we take up. So any point of time we are confused what to do, what not to do, apply this criteria. If something is favorable for my bhakti, I go ahead. If something is not favorable, I better stop. So this faith in Krishna's protection is what will help us to elevate in our consciousness. And we ended up by discussing this entire glories of Bhagavad Gita. Whoever explains it, whoever first we before explaining we have to understand, and then we have to ex- put as much as our effort in our field of influence to explain that to others. Devotion is definitely guaranteed for such kind of person. So anybody who picks up this explanation, devotion is definitely guaranteed. If we are putting effort to understand Bhagavad Gita, it is like worshipping Krishna with our intelligence. This is one of the highest form of worship. More than the lamp, understanding Bhagavad Gita and applying these principles in our practical life, it's worshipping Krishna with intelligence. Even listening with faith and providing our time for such activity, it helps us to free from sins and attain higher state. Why? Because with this developed understanding, mind's propensity to perform negative sinful activities automatically goes down. So it helps us to get free from sinful activities and their reactions also, by in due course of time, by listening, by even listening to Bhagavad Gita. So the effect is, while studying, while listening, while explaining, while contemplating, all these effects, illusion is, it affects in our consciousness. We are very clear in our thoughts. All illusion is gone. We regain what to be done, what not to be done. That memory is established. We are composed in our decision process, and we are free from any kind of doubts. We are very sure about what to do, what not to do, and we will end up following Krishna's instructions, because then Krishna will enable us, he will guide from within what should be done. And this Arjuna's action, by after hearing Bhagavad Gita, contemplating on of that, and Krishna's instruction, this duo will invokes the all kinds of opulence, spiritual opulence, even material opulence, all kind of victory our inner senses, and also external victory in our material life. Extraordinary power, something which is not possible with our own material efforts to achieve something, and as well as proper morality. So, morality is the basis for any kind of victory in our life. So, as long as we have these moral principles, everything else will make sense. So, presence of Krishna will invoke opulence, victory, power, and morality in our life. So, this Bhagavad Gita, recitation of Bhagavad Gita, contemplation of this Bhagavad Gita, it will help us to perfect our life in this material world, as well as it will help us to transcend this particular material world, go back to the spiritual world. Thanks a lot for your attention, and we may not have any specific question answers as a part of this discussion, but next session I will send out message as well, that it will be dedicated, that whatever questions you may have, I'll not be recording that session, but any kind of questions or clarifications you have, please free to ask them or put that in chat, and we will discuss that out. Any specific concepts, any flow, any application of these concepts, everything we will discuss. So thank you so much for your attention, and we'll end up today's session by chanting one Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you so much for joining. And if you have any questions, please either write it into chat, or